Voters Candidate Forum for the April 1st general election for Wisconsin Rapids Mayor. Our candidates here this evening are Mary Jo Carson and Zach Ruink, and those are the only two candidates on the April 1st general election ballot. We're pleased to bring you this forum live on River City's Community Access Television and simulcast on WFHR. Our viewers at home may call in questions at 421-8248, and a reminder that questions are screened for clarity, directness, and to avoid duplication. Please address your questions to the office and not to a particular candidate. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, thanks to our candidates for their willingness to run for office and to appear here. The League is nonpartisan and does not support or propose any candidate or political party. We will start right away with our 2-minute opening addresses, and we drew lots earlier, and Mary Jo Carson will go first.
Thank you, Karen. It's great to be here again. I have to tell you, this has been a fantastic journey. It's the fourth time I've done this, and I have learned more than I've ever learned about myself. I have learned that I am not a politician at all. Don't know how to be one, never will learn how to be one. I'm a public servant who worked for the taxpayers for 6 years, and that's all I am. I really do like working for the taxpayers. So in the learning process, I have to say this has been an interesting race because of discussions that have occurred about facts or fiction or innuendos. The statistics that we have all used and the numbers we've all used have come right from this. This is the city budget, and our committee will be happy to print a budget for anybody that wants one. So the discussions that have taken place on facts. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to answer your questions, and I know my opponent is too. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach Ruink.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. I thank the voters here in the audience and those watching from the comfort of home. And prior to my election as mayor, I recognized many opportunities for our city, from much-needed investments in technology, reasons to build partnerships both inside and outside the city, as well as connecting with the ever-changing world around us. In the very short time I've been mayor, growing our local economy has and will continue to be my ongoing and number one priority. Listening to businesses, both large and small, about their challenges and responding to those challenges has been the norm. Working with startup businesses and those entrepreneurs with the ideas and connecting them with financing and mentorship as they develop their businesses and hopefully develop in Wisconsin Rapids has been very rewarding. Streamlining our operations to be much more efficient and more effective and smarter by investing in the training of our workers here at the city has proven successful and is producing results. Last but not least, supporting resident engagement and participation is bringing pride back to our neighborhoods, a sense of ownership in our community and our city. It's a pleasure to work alongside city departments and to have a productive working relationship with the council. As we all know, that's where the decisions get made. I couldn't say that we would have made progress without either one. As I round out my first 2 years as mayor, I'm proud to say that we're making progress. With each passing month, initiating change takes time and is very consuming and oftentimes can be uncomfortable. But for a community in transition, that change is critical to a strong future. I'm grateful for the opportunity to lead this community, to be unwavering in addressing our city's competitiveness, and as we embrace our future. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Our first question will go to Zach Ruink. What would you do as mayor to encourage and streamline the permitting process for building permits? The questioner is suggesting right now multiple permits are required for electrical, plumbing, concrete, etc.
It's a very good question. In fact, it's arisen in the Rapid Improvement Initiative that I just referred to, the process where we train employees in the Lean Six Sigma methodology to look at processes such as this for consideration for process improvement. The project did not get selected for consideration this last round of training, but it will be considered going forward. That project in particular is very important because not only are there many steps, there's also upstream and downstream issues. So when a permit is pulled, there's a lot of staff time and staff work that needs to happen. And oftentimes there's waiting, whether it's the developer waiting for the process to get approved, or staff waiting for information from the developer, or a decision to be made in front of the planning commission, et cetera. So from the permitting process, it's understanding the steps in the process and then getting the city employees and myself and others working on improving the process. So it has been in consideration. We now have some new staff in the Planning and Economic Development Department that is now considering going forward that issue. And so I think there's much room for improvement, as there is with any process. There's no question. As it relates to permitting process and building permits and whether it's commercial inspection, those sorts of things, there's a lot of room for improvement. And frankly, is a ripe candidate for applying the Lean Six Sigma methodology, which looks at mapping the process and looking for where the wait time is.
Thank you. Mary Jo Carson.
I think the permitting process is always a mystery to those going to get them. That needs to be corrected, and they need to be able to pull permits on everything at one stop. That has always been the goal in the planning department. Has it gotten where it needs to be? I've been away from it 2 years. Obviously, it still needs work. The key piece, as both of us have talked about, is technology again, and the use of it and the way that we can pull those permits online and make it far more efficient. I am wondering, I understand there's new inspectors, and I also understand that there's discussions out in the field that the inspectors are being a little unfair to the people working on the jobs and not talking to the owners of the properties. So obviously communication is an issue here. And the communication piece that we need to work on at all times is how you pull the permits, how you make sure that the people pulling the permits know what in the name of peace it's for, and how the inspectors review those permits and go out and make sure that what they say is being done is being done. The problem is that when you go back and do a revaluation, that information of what improvement was done in that house has to go to the assessor as well. So the communication is all within city governmental entities, and I would love to see it more efficient. I think technology, that's a perfect place for good technology, and it's a perfect place for our website to do the work it needs to be doing.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Mary Jo Carson. Given the recent announcement of the sale of Renaissance Learning, how will you ensure the growth of this growing industry and that they stay and flourish in our community?
I really think the key piece is going to be people. We need to make sure that the labor force in this city and in this area has the skills to work for that expanding business. They certainly will expand if they have people. And I know that UW Stevens Point and Midstate are offering classes, and I know there's communication going on between Renaissance and those institutions, but we can never stop keeping that dialogue going, because it is going to be people. They have a whole third floor. They used to. I think there's still space in their present campus. I think they like being here. I think they like this community. And I think we need to stay in touch with them very, very closely on the staffing issues and make sure that our people have a chance to work for that world-class institution.
Thank you. Zach Bruink.
Well, Renaissance Learning is a great example of a company that not only saw an opportunity and started in this community with an idea, but also grew in this community and now is flourishing in this community. But we have to do our darndest to make sure that that spirit continues to stay a focus here in our own community. So not only is it a story to other tech firms that Wisconsin Rapids can be a place not only for them to grow roots or relocate to, and having just met with Renaissance just this week again on this particular subject of workforce development and some of their concerns, Renaissance Learning always, at least under current management, will view Wisconsin Rapids as their center of gravity. This will be where their center of focus is. This is where the largest number of employees, it's where their critical mass is. The challenge for us, are they going to continue to grow this office? And if we can't continue to pay attention to their needs, both workforce, quality of life, it's why, for example, we've been calling for an investment in our public spaces, because the type of workforce that Renaissance is looking for, software developers, engineers, like to be in a community where they have things to do, where there's entertainment opportunities, and where they have a place where they feel welcome. And so paying attention to those needs and understanding what the workforce needs that they have, but also being a community where the workforce wants to reside. They will always operate satellite locations around the country, and in this case now around the world. But we need to do our best to make sure that Renaissance continues to view Wisconsin Rapids as a place to grow. And that's finding them talent, so staying very close with them, working with Midstate, building a partnership for a pipeline of workers for them. They were most concerned that they continue to deplete the talent pool. So there's more work that needs to be done to make sure that we've got a pipeline of workers for them. And so that means sometimes city government stepping out of its norm, making sure that that happens.
Thank you. Our next question. In order to form a stronger local economy and pool more resources, do you think Wisconsin Rapids should annex Grand Rapids, Saratoga, Port Edwards, Nakusa, and Buren? And then the questioner says we could rename the area to the Wisconsin Rapids metro area. Is this a good idea? Zach Bruink first.
Wow, we have 2 minutes. Well, I will respond quickly that shared government services is something that the city has done and has done for a long time, and in some areas is looking to grow. I think maintaining their identity in certain communities is very important. So I think if it's something we definitely should maybe explore as we look forward, given the fact that the tax bases in each respective municipalities have been struggling. They've increased, and incrementally over the last number of years. So if tax bases are not growing in certain communities, those existing taxpayers are burdened with more of the tax base. As manufacturing potentially valuations decline, and so residents have to pick up more in the process. So absolutely, is it something we should consider? I'd be very concerned, though, maybe the city initiating that conversation for fear that the city is trying to badger or bully any of the neighboring municipalities. But I think there's an opportunity in it. We're going to continue to explore it. We've already discussed it in some of our municipal public works services, whether it's maybe garbage collection or recycling collection, that if the city's investing in the equipment to do the service today, that maybe the city can provide that service to other municipalities. Case in point, we formalized in the last year a relationship with the Village of Port Edwards to do their inspections. It didn't make sense for the Village of Port Edwards to hire inspectors full-time for their staff, so the City of Rapids had some capacity to be able to do some of their inspections. In the same way, I would say for the Village of Buren, that as they are struggled with declining tax base, that there's an opportunity for the city to provide some services. But strictly collaboration, or consolidation of the identities and one governmental body, I don't foresee that happening in the very near future, but it's something to explore.
Thank you. Mary Jo Carson.
Well, I'm sorry to correct the mayor, but we've been inspecting in Port Edwards longer than the last year. It's been going on a long, long, long time. We, as a city, cannot bring up annexation to anybody. They have to come to us. That's state law. So the conversation leads us down a slippery slope. If with this question, I know and the mayor knows we work very hard to share services, to talk and keep the lines of communication very, very open so we can help each other. We have done that many times. We've done that with public works, particularly, plows and inloaders and things where people get in trouble and we can help them out. The region is the region for a reason. And the people that live in the townships like it that way. I respect them for that. And I really, really think that we are the hub, they are the wheel. They are the wheel. And they keep us as a city alive. The people that live in those townships are our lifeline. And if suddenly somebody would say, gee, we'd love to be a part of Wisconsin Rapids and pay and have the infrastructure, pay for it extended, the whole 9 yards, you betcha we'd always talk to them. However, they got to come to Rapids. We can't go to them, nor have we ever in the 6 years I was mayor, and I'm sure the present mayor has never done it either. So I think it's a discussion that always reminds me of the wheel.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question will go with Mary Jo Carson first. What would you do as mayor to promote fairness for taxpayers in voicing their opinions regarding local matters?
Well, I guess I'd ask, what do you mean fairness on local matters with taxpayers? Taxpayers have many ways they can express themselves. They can go to the Board of Review if they don't like the taxes that their real estate taxes. We have always had an open opportunity at this meeting to allow taxpayers to speak, and the council members can always recognize them. I think you have to be very, very careful to have taxpayers feel included in the process. And the one place that I think we could have done a better job on is the revaluation of our properties. Taxpayers could have been better informed on that process, and we could have been distributing information so that people might have been better prepared when their real estate tax bills came and their values went up. And I think that it's all about fairness and distribution of information on a regular basis to the taxpayers. It's always about the pocketbook, and it's all about the pocketbook with the city. And together, the more information we get them, the better they feel they're included. And I know this council has always run an open council meeting. I have never seen them not be fair to a taxpayer. So they can come anytime they want and ask questions, and that I have observed when I was here and when I've watched it on television. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach Fruink.
Karen, one more time the question, please.
Sure. What would you do as mayor to promote fairness for taxpayers in voicing their opinions regarding local matters?
Well, as Mary Jo Carson indicated, the budget process is wide open to residents to participate. It starts in late summer, early fall. Many meetings, the Finance Committee works to assemble the budget after I've prepared an executive budget for their consideration. And then there's a public hearing before the budget is passed, in which the council then obviously considers the budget for formal adoption. I think something that has been done during my tenure in office that I'm particularly proud of, and that has been said that it's been done before and it really hasn't, and that is activity-based budgeting. Really digging down into the numbers to find out what sort of activities city departments and city functions perform with the dollars they're given. In the process, in the case of the Park and Rec Department, we now have a better understanding of what is the cost to the taxpayer to operate the ice rink at Witter Field, for example, or to perform brush pickup on a monthly basis, or to clean up the parks in Robinson Park. So I think part of it's transparency, part of it is just digging into the data and starting to measure performance. That way, taxpayers at any given time can look at how is our city performing? Are they performing? We can benchmark against other cities. Are we performing as effectively as we could or as we should? But I think at the same time, you also have to trust administration that they're being good stewards of the tax dollar. Part of the methodology or the reasoning behind the rapid improvement Lean Six Sigma methodology was reprioritization and understanding of what it is the city is doing on an annual budget process. And so by defining those activities, getting the activities brought forth in the budget through the process, residents at any point can take a look at the budget and understand what city services cost the taxpayer to perform. We can't lose sight of the fact that the city tax bill includes many taxing entities, so always paying attention to the city tax line is very important to understand how your city is doing and what the city is doing, I guess, with the taxpayers' dollars.
Thank you. Our next question, it refers to the Tribune Building project and the positive energy generated in the community. The question is, if elected as mayor, how would you capitalize on this energy and continue to engage residents in decision-making around downtown development? And the question goes to Zach Fruink.
I must say I'm really inspired every time I leave one of the meetings at the Tribune Building conversation, because over 200 residents show up to these meetings to voice their opinion. Residents of all spectrum, across the spectrum, have the opportunity to hear exactly and to have their voices heard and to hear what their other residents have for suggestions. As mayor, it's obviously a private project, but I tend as a resident, just like any other resident may attend, to learn about the process. And I think it's a testament to the fact that this community is at a point in time where they want to be involved in the decision making, they want to They want to participate in the process. And most importantly, they want to make our community a better place. The decision and the power resides in those that live in the community, not only through elections, but also in the case of a public process that involves residents in the future of a building. I think the Tribune Building is just one such example of what's to come related to investments in parks should I become reelected, embarking on a very aggressive system where residents are involved and engaged in suggesting their ideas for what our city parks and public spaces can be. So I really think that the Tribune Building has been a really good case study for this community. I can tell you that people that look at that from outside the community are really inspired as well, that this community is participating in really, for the first time, in a very dramatic way. And I'm very excited to see residents continuously showing up for that project, and very excited about what that project can do to be a catalyst for future development, not only on the riverfront, but around the city. So very exciting, and I'll continue to support resident engagement opportunities, whether they're in neighborhoods, beautification, around issues of sustainability. That's always been a priority of mine to involve residents in the process, and I'm very excited this project has shown the community.
Thank you. Mary Jo Carson.
I think this is an example of a continuation of what started with Centralia Center. Centralia Center was the beginning of a vibrant coming together of this community, 3 agencies in 1 building. A lot of people put money in that project. And now we're down the street a ways. We're in the same neighborhood. We're looking at doing the same thing, creating a vibrant, active building that comes alive with various programs. I don't know what they will be. I don't know that anybody really has their arms around that yet. But it is a wonderful thing to see that neighborhood getting some opportunities for a real smile, a big smile. I listened to the comments of the alderpersons. I have to agree with them that it is a private project, and I am not in favor of the city putting 1 penny in it. I am in favor of the city working together with all the partners to make it a vibrant, beautiful facility of the purpose of the, that would be the purpose the citizens want. I've been at those 200 I've been one of those 200 people. I've enjoyed listening to all kinds of ideas. That's what's been good about it. The ideas have been very diverse. The Tribune Building is a unique building, and we need to preserve it because it is a unique building in a unique place, right on the river. So together, again, it's a public-private partnership, just exactly like Centralia Center. We stand ready as a public entity to work with private sector to make it happen.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Mary Jo Carson first. What do you think is the role professional development and education should play with city staff and administration, including the mayor? And city staff and administration is underlined.
Well, I think that's a good thing to underline. I think it's important to a point. But the reason I'm running is because when you don't, we're a service organization, and service organizations need to be educated on a regular basis, all of them, in some form, whether it's the department heads as to how they do certain things with technology and the computers, or whether it's the street department, how they run new equipment. Everybody needs education. But a service organization also needs the tools to deliver their service. You can't take away from the street department and the snow removal budget and put it someplace else because that's something that you feel is more important. Priorities on money are real important in a tight budget. Both of us have struggled with tight budgets. Money doesn't grow on trees. It's always difficult to meet the needs of everybody. So when you're sitting around and saying, okay, what am I going to spend money on? You spend money on training as you can, and yes, you should, but the priorities have to go across the budget, not in just some spots. So the best way to do it is prioritize your spending in the first place. And if you do that, the training will fall into place. And my concern is that if you spend too much on training, you're not always accomplishing everything unless you have a quantified review of what was gained by that training. And in most public sector jobs, you have to put a report together when you come back from the training so that your boss knows what you learned. So it's quantitative and it's qualified. I love training, but not just for the sake of training.
Thank you. Our question is, what do you think is the role professional development and education should play with city staff and administration, including the mayor? Zach Ruink.
Well, I think it plays a critical role. I think anybody that's in any position, the public sector, the private sector, always learning more about how to perform a job better is absolutely critical. It's expected of taxpayers, of those that serve in public, in elected office, and those that serve in civil service positions. But I do have to respond to something, because I was very struck by the comment about don't strike the snow removal budget or the street budget in a question about professional development and training. And I do have to be very clear, because there's been some comments made, reported and printed in the newspaper, et cetera, regarding the streets department budget being struck or reallocated outside of the snow removal budget. And let me be clear, that the street superintendent was provided with every penny that he felt that needed to operate that department. There wasn't a single dollar that was removed from that budget based on what that street superintendent felt he needed to operate that budget. So I want to be very clear with taxpayers, because obviously we had a tough year with snow removal. Nothing was changed in the snow removal process. That came from the directive of myself. The street department continues to operate the street same way that they've done it in the past, in the respect that every department head is left to administer their budget and operate their department, whether it's streets or parks or engineering, et cetera. So I just want to be clear on that. Regarding training and related to training, it absolutely has a critical role. You heard my statement about rapid improvement. It's something that I'm very thankful the council felt that was very important. Thankfully, we were able to leverage state grant dollars to help us pay for that, so that the local taxpayer, local share was very small. But yeah, I wanted to be very clear about that. So professional development plays a critical role in any organization, the public sector, the private sector, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Mary Jo Carson. Oh, wait, never mind.
I'm here.
Just giving you a break,
Okay, thank you.
both of you. Okay, our next question will start with Zach Ruink. A question about eminent domain and sidewalks. Should the city use eminent domain to take land from homeowners to build a sidewalk for safety if the homeowners do not want it?
That's a tough issue. I guess I would state that it has to be in an area where there's been a safety issue that's been identified. Sidewalks for the sake of sidewalks, I struggle with. Number one, because there's other priorities that might be, kind of competing for those dollars. In the case of the Safe Routes to School program that was kind of initiated underneath former Mayor Carson, and something that we still have continued to move forward with, is the sidewalks regarding Washington School. And having driven through there a number of times through this winter, we know we had a lot of snow, and so the children, I drove through during the school time, and I was really disturbed to see kids walking out in the street, obviously snowbanks taller than them, so very concerning. We have a safety issue over there. And so I believe that the question is really rooted in that issue, as that's really been the only sidewalk issue that's been brought forth really recently. So federal dollars paying for the sidewalks there, initiated previous to me, but something that I felt very supportive of as well. And I think, in the issue of eminent domain, it all comes down to whether it's a safety issue. If we have lives at stake and the city is responsible for getting to respond, appropriately. So in this case, kids have a safe route to getting to school in the morning or from school in the afternoon. I think it's something the city has a role to play. And so sidewalk, eminent domain for the sake of taking land away from landowners, no, of course not. But there has to be a priority and a balance. And I think in this case, on Washington Street, there's been a need identified. In fact, the federal government awarded the city dollars to be able to respond to the needs, so the local taxpayers did not have to pick up the tab.
Thank you. Mary Jo Carson.
I think this is an issue that has been beaten to death on the council floor for years. And it's because we have a sidewalk policy that we don't enforce. And we have had it forever and ever and ever. And those council members that have been on the council have sat through the discussion. I think the biggest problem we have is to make the decision, are we or are we not going to have a sidewalk policy? And what is it going to be, and how are we going to enforce it, and how are we going to make sure that it's even and fair? Now, right now, Zach is exactly right that Safe Walk to School and that Safe Routes to School, rather, is a good program. Washington School will benefit significantly from it. I know there are people that aren't happy about it, but I think safety comes first. And I'm very proud we implemented it. I would love to see somebody tell us how we get a sidewalk policy that makes sense. I've never lived in a community where we would have somebody come to Public Works and there'd be a sidewalk on one lot that dead-ended on both sides. Now, explain that to me. Now, what good is that sidewalk to anybody? But here this poor person had to put that sidewalk in there. So there's a reason to look at this, and it needs to be looked at very, very carefully. Thank you, whoever asked it.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Mary Jo Carson first. Define your view of the responsibilities of the office of the mayor.
My view of a mayor is, as I told you in my opening, a mayor is a public servant. First, a mayor works for the taxpayers of the city of Wisconsin Rapids. First, a mayor is available to those people. A mayor does the very best they can to answer their questions in a timely fashion. A mayor works to attend the meetings that they're invited to and works their schedule around what goes on in Wisconsin Rapids. A mayor is the face of this city, not only here, but in the state and in the country. Now, you balance that. If you can meet the needs of your taxpayers and you can be here for them when they need you here and still travel, that's wonderful. But your taxpayers' needs and the organizations that come to this community, they're the ones that come first. I love being the meet and greet. I love to do it. I love to go to many, many, many of the meetings we had at the Hotel Mead, because the people that come to Rapids like us. They love our town. They love our river. They say wonderful things about this beautiful community. So that's the best part of the job. You want the truth of the matter. But a mayor is also an administrator of a $34 million budget. So the mayor has to be here for the purpose of administration too. So there's about 3 hats I just mentioned. And the most important one is responsibility to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach Bruing.
Well, the first role, as was alluded to, is really to be the administrator. In our form of government, the mayor is the Monday through Friday administrator. The buck stops with the mayor. In my case, I take that responsibility very seriously. My staff, and during staff meetings and other interaction with staff, take direction from the mayor and take direction from myself. Obviously, they're responsible for executing and carrying out their department budgets, but they do reach out to me for direction. But they also, in the case of our city, the mayor also sets the vision, and departmental staff and community members can rally around it. They can inform the mayor. Obviously, the mayor is expected to develop that vision through conversations with the community and observations that the mayor has throughout the process. But the mayor is also to be the figurehead of the city, and that means in the city and outside the city, as Mary Jo Carson has referred to. And I'd remind everyone that there are opportunities for our community, and it has to be the role of the mayor and to not only support and seek these opportunities for the community, whether they're investments, in the case of the most recent $25,000 grant from CN, recognizing that there are dollars and grant and funding opportunities available to our community. So our local taxpayers may not always have to pick up the share and pick up the tab for certain projects in the case of grants. In particular, I think the mayor also has a very critical role in economic development projects. Oftentimes, when someone looks at when a prospect comes to a community, it may not be the first step, but it may be the second or third step that they stop to the mayor's office and initiate a conversation about how the mayor can assist them with their potential project and make sure that they're a fit for the community. So, beyond the CEO, the administration role and the responsibility, economic development has to be a critical role and representing the community. So there's a responsibility here in the office inside City Hall, but outside City Hall as well and outside the community.
Thank you. Our final question this evening for our two mayoral candidates has two parts. We will start with Zach Ruink. What will you do to make Rapids be different than all of the other cities that are facing tough times and competing for limited development opportunities? And how are you going to stay up to date or learn about what other communities are doing to stay innovative?
Sure. Well, I think the tail end of your question really speaks to it, Karen. We really need to pay attention to what trends are emerging around the country, particularly related to technology, as we've seen not only in economic development, but in our operations here at City Hall, paying attention to the emerging trends in other industries, so we can solicit to those industries and make sure that we're considered as a place for development. I think, increasingly so, the national economy trends are indicating such that investment is starting to shake loose, and we're seeing it in this community. In the last couple of months, the number of sale of commercial properties has increased dramatically, which is a sign of the times and encouraging times and people recognizing opportunity here. So for us, is marketing our assets nationally and internationally. We saw that in the site selection, or the certification of the site at the Rapids East Commerce Park. Was just one small example of that. I feel that there's much more work to be done in marketing our assets, but recognizing where are the opportunities for us to improve. Understanding our workforce is great, but what are the workforce challenges of not only employers here, but employers that may consider Wisconsin Rapids? So, those are really the areas to be different in terms of development. I think taking a look, and something we've started to do was to make sure the look and the feel of the community is taken care of. When you drive around the community, there are areas that make us feel like we've disinvested in ourselves, and I think the city can play a role to initiate conversations or to challenge developers to invest in properties that are blighted and vacant. And so there's a lot that falls under the question, but I think in 2 minutes, it really comes down to marketing our assets, making sure that we're a place that invests in itself, because businesses and people want to locate in a community that believes in itself and has pride and is looking forward.
Thank you. Would you like the question
Yes.
repeated?
Thank you.
What will you do to make or have Rapids be different than all of the other cities that are facing tough times and competing for limited development opportunities? And how will you stay up to date or learn about what other communities are doing to stay innovative? Mary Jo Carson.
Thank you. I do believe that the innovative piece is important. I think that the community that we're in is very clearly unique already, and that is what we need to build on. The uniqueness of this community comes from its location, its natural beauty, and the people that are here and the businesses that are here. We need to be creating the entrepreneurial atmosphere again. And it's here. There are people doing things in their basement and in their garage. That entrepreneurial spirit is how we got a telephone company and a utility, and we're so ahead of our neighbors in years gone by. I've said this many, many, many times. We are not Stevens Point, Marshfield, or Wausau. We are Wisconsin Rapids, and we need to be very proud of who we are because of the entrepreneurial spirit. So what do you do to generate that? You create opportunities for businesses to become educated about how they develop their product and how they access financing. You create an atmosphere that information is easy for them to get, whether it's monthly meetings for small business people that are held here in this very room, or whether you bring in people to share on a larger basis information about growing businesses. What happens when businesses talk to businesses, they pretty quickly find out what isn't available here, where we might be able to find somebody to come in and make that for them. Businesses talking to businesses generate an awful lot of activity. So to grow this community, we need to grow the dialogue among our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to closing statements, and in reverse order, we will start with Zach Ruink.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you to the League for giving voters the opportunity to hear the issues and to see how we as candidates feel on those issues. I thank you for your questions here tonight. It is my hope, whether you're watching here or watching at home, that you have a clearer understanding of where each of us stand on the important issues facing our city. It's very clear, voters have distinct options in this race. I will continue to be a mayor who recognizes the need to build connections with the ever-changing world around us, who's concerned about the future of this community, who understands that the same thinking oftentimes produces the same results, who listens to businesses and acts on their concerns, who isn't afraid of initiating change, even when it may be unpopular, and who will be an effective ambassador for our city here locally and outside our community. And I won't be a mayor who defends the status quo. I'll be a mayor who is laser focused on regaining the competitive edge for our city, and who has the energy to work tirelessly to ensure our city becomes increasingly so known as a place and an engine for opportunity where everyone rises together. After all, we elect a mayor to lead, who stands up for this community and drives it forward. We're a changing community, and if there's ever a time to continue to embrace a successful future, that time is now. Having been born here, attended school here, started and grew a business here, each day I'm reminded of how proud I am to lead this community and the people who live here. I ask for your vote, continued trust, and confidence on Tuesday to keep our community moving forward. Thank you for your attention this evening.
Thank you. And that concludes our second portion of our candidate.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think so. I didn't get to speak
If
yet,
I could
Karen.
tell you the week I had. I'm sorry. Mary Jo Carson.
Thank you, my dear. I'll forgive you. I really enjoy these forums, and I think that the League doesn't get enough credit for doing it. I thank you very, very much. I thank the audience that's here and those at home. I would like to remind the voters who I am. I have been accused of maybe coming back and why did I do it? Well, I have some experience that I still would like to share. Experience really helps in the job of mayor. I was here 6 years. I did 6 budgets. I know what it is to fight with levy limits. I know what it is to try to keep the tax levies, the tax rate down in this city. I know what it is to work with businesses. Mariani, which was urban, Ocean Spray, ECC, the Rafters, Aspirus. I also know what happens when the place floods and how you set up an emergency center. I also know what happens when hail comes from nowhere and 8,000 roofs have to be replaced. And we have crooks come to town, and unfortunately we had people lose money. I love this town as much as anybody that was born here. It's been very, very good to me. And I still have a heck of a lot to give back. I thank you for this opportunity, and I certainly hope you vote on Tuesday. Thank you. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you. I apologize for that.
Okay.
That concludes the second portion of our forum with our 2 candidates for Wisconsin Rapids Mayor, Mary Jo Carson and Zach Ruink. We will take a short break and be back with our candidates for Wisconsin Rapids School Board. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.